welcome everyone to this episode of the Home Studio Show and Tell here with Edge Studio. We have been running this series since just before, I think, actually, the pandemic. And then as we can see throughout where we are in 2024. So if this is your first time, welcome. We are so happy to have you here with us. And then, of course, to my Zoom left, at least my Zoom left, there is one Chief Edge Officer, David Goldberg. How are you, David?
I'm great. And you know what? It's so good, you guys, to learn something every day, right? You're here to learn a ton about voiceover studios, home studios, and equipment, and sound absorption, and sound proofing, and all that kind of stuff. Siobhan, we have done a lot of these episodes, and this really has been just about my favorite part of the month. These shows, they're terrific. I was telling our guests, who Siobhan will introduce in a few moments, right before we began, how it's really interesting how the show has morphed. I was looking at some numbers over the past week or two, and when we began the show years ago, many, many episodes ago, I think what Siobhan, we're on episode 21, I think now. Most people used to watch this show live, and we only had maybe 20 or 30% more people watch it post-show, post-recording. It's completely switched now. We typically have about 50 or 60 people watch the show live. Right now, we're at 34, and again, we'll probably get to 50. However, we have typically 100 or 200 on YouTube, and then the brunt of people are watching these shows on our webpage, which is so cool, which just means this is become a serious hub of people sharing, of swapping uh, tidbits of knowledge on home studios. So I love it. I think it's so cool. So anyway, I'm excited. So
Beautiful.
thanks for being here, everyone.
Changing landscape of the Zoom experience. So, speaking of the Zoom experience, let's get into it. If this is your first time ever joining us, we are so grateful to have you. Again, we'll be hanging out in the chat, interacting with our presenters today. So, any thoughts, feelings? Some of you are talking to me about Halloween and your birthdays, and I love it. I'm very supportive of the direction that's going. But so that's where we're going to talk to our folks about the content today. So the way this works is that we have two fabulous voice actors in the community who have donated their hour to be with us and just to share their home studio space. This is not a space for them to become your personal professional home studio consultant. This is an opportunity for you to learn and gain inspiration and insight about someone else's space, to remind yourself that we can all do it and we can do it together. So that is the main goal here. And we are just going to walk through that journey, and we're going to begin with someone. We did discuss how we would get this started, and I'm pretty hyped because their presentation is their video. I also need to talk about your video because I really am into the video as well. But I'm going to bring forth one Max Newland. Hello, Max. Welcome.
Hi, that's me. Thank you.
How first of all, we love to introduce ourselves here in this
Okay,
space. I'm a big fan of superhero origin stories. So if you can give us a little bit of your, abbreviated bio on
sure.
how you got into voiceover that then ultimately led you to be here in a Zoom screen, talking to us today.
Well, there was a lot of waiting, a lot of sitting around and not doing anything. But at the very beginning, it all started when I was a little kid and I loved cartoons. And I've always been passionate about animation. I'm not in animation right now. I don't. Majority of the work that I do is in audiobooks at the moment. But it was that love of performance that got me there. I went to school for theater in Louisville, Kentucky. I went to the Youth Performing Arts School. Spent about 10 years in theater education, and then ended up doing nothing with it for a long time. And in fact, my day job is still in marketing. And I found, for a while, the only thing I was doing anywhere related to voiceover is podcasting. I hosted and edited my own podcast for, gosh, like 6, 7 years, multiple different projects, different networks, different individuals, different subjects. But then around the start of the pandemic, I just thought, I've always wanted to be a voice actor. So why am I not doing it?
Mm.
And of course, the answer to that question was, I don't know how to get into it. But I made some friends. I started talking with people. I started networking. I started watching shows like this one. And I found my niche in audiobooks for the moment.
So when you say, I mean, I have so many questions, but I guess just quickly, how did you begin to niche yourself into
Okay.
audiobooks?
Well, the thing is that, like, I thought when I was thinking about all the different the first thing I feel like the first step for me was learning about the different ways you can work in voiceover as a professional. I'm not really an audiobook guy. I had never before I got into recording audiobooks, I didn't really listen to a lot. That's changed obviously because it's part of the business. You want to know what the trends in the business are, what to do and what not to do. But what I found was I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to try it. And I went through Amazon's ACX platform and over the past year did around 20 separate narration jobs. All of that through ACX, and then finally towards the end of the last year started getting some work with actual publishing companies for non-self-published books. And that, I mean, it's just been a tremendous joy. And I was worried initially that it would be boring, but I enjoy being in here so much that even when I'm narrating a boring book, which does happen, it's not that big a deal because I get to, come in here and record.
So when you're in your booth, and this is a segue into your studio, when you're in your booth recording an audiobook, that's when your booth tends to get pretty hot, right? And for those of you who are recording, you probably know that when you have long form narration, the temperature in your booths can really heat up. And something that's been an ongoing topic in this string of home studio show and tells has been, how do you ventilate your studio? How do you bring in fresh air, cool air? Uh, so, can you walk us through your booth, show us your
Sure.
setup? And while you walk us through, I want you to tell us definitely about ventilation if you have any in your studio, or if do you just sweat it out? The other thing that's been going on, a really continual topic of conversation, has been chairs, especially for long form narration. And that's you, right, Max? Chairs that are comfortable, that don't hurt your rear end, that are completely silent. So,
Okay.
as you walk us through, we want to see these things. Tell us about what you're doing with these things.
So we're going to use the word walk pretty generously because I got to be honest with you, this is a small booth. On the floor, it's 4 feet by 4 feet and it's 8 feet tall. I'm a pretty short guy, so that works for me. Um, and, you know, otherwise, the thing is, when it comes to chairs, I don't have advice for you because I don't have a chair in here. I'm standing all
Oh,
the
wow.
time. And when it comes to ventilation, I don't really have much advice for you there either because this thing is not like sealed. Um, all of the all of the corners and things, the walls of this booth are made out of uh, sound dampening blankets that I got from a website called Vocal Booth to Go. It these They're held onto the PVC pipes using shower curtains and shower curtain clips and grommets. And so I guess really, if you want to know about ventilation, it's really just that the wind just comes in and like I close my window if it's noisy outside. um, I guess I'm pretty lucky because I live in what I consider to be a very loud apartment complex. But I am still able to get a noise floor of minus 65, minus 70 in here on a good
Wow,
day.
that's great. Do you move the camera more slowly?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm stealing Siobhan's joke here. She gets the credit. We don't want vertigo for everyone to have vertigo. Okay. Um,
Okay, I'm
yeah, yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Totally fine. Okay. I love the idea that this is a booth put together with PVC tubing, some sound blankets that you can purchase, on Amazon or vocalbooth.com, and we've had such an amazing string of types of studios. I noticed that Jason Birmingham is on this call. He is one of the most beautiful studios I have ever seen. And your studio is, I'm not saying it's not that it's beautiful, but we're looking at it like on the continuum of studios, yours is at a different end of Jason's. And it still works, right? And you still have this great noise floor. So tell us about your equipment. What are you
Yeah,
Yeah,
running?
totally.
What
totally.
kind of microphone? How do you get to your controls? Let's see it all.
For the record, I think it's actually beautiful in there. I'm very into the lighting.
I think the lights are fun, yeah. Siobhan, we've seen in the past 3 or 4 months, at least half the studios have lights like this. String lights of some sort. It's really just
You
It's
gotta
making the
bring the
space
joy.
yours. It's making the space fun and enjoyable to work in, as opposed to just a really dark booth. We've had some guests who have dark booths who say, "I like it that way," right? Um, and this is so great that you can personalize. Yeah, there's the string lights. You can personalize these booths and make them fun.
Okay, so when it comes to questions about the way this booth is put together, I basically just started asking questions of all the people I knew who were working in voiceover or knew people who worked in voiceover, um, and basically the answer that I got was, if you want a booth in your home, it's quite expensive to get something prefab, and it's quite expensive to buy the sort of like build it yourself type stuff. So I thought about what are some cheap things that already exist in the world, and PVC seemed to be like the go-to material for, if you like, baby's first DIY project is get some PVC pipe. So I went to the hardware store, got some PVC pipe, but first what I did was I searched for a DIY PVC booth on Google. And what I got was originally intended, it was a website that is more for like performance, for like music performance. But I figured this is probably a similar use case, or at least it will put the same amount of stress on the actual thing. So what I found was like a calculator. It's a Excel spreadsheet where you type in, it lets you type in how tall you want it to be, how wide, how deep, and then it suggests lengths to cut the PVC and provides you with a blueprint for it.
It's like
And
ticker toys, and it's like perfected.
pretty much, yeah, and, like, it even told you, like, how many, like, elbow joints you need and how many T joints you need, and I'm not a, like, handyman. I'm not like like a DIY guy. Like, I just sort of did this in an afternoon. I got pretty hot and sweaty while I was building it, but, being in the Pacific Northwest, the climate is usually on my side, when I'm actually in here. As when it comes to lighting, I mean, this is just LED strips, you know. I went to Fred Meyer and I bought some LED strips because I thought it'd be fun. And it is fun. And guess what? They can do different colors. Check this out. Ooh, the blue's a little harsh. I don't like to go with the blue. I like the purple because it's kind of relaxed and mellow.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
so
Um,
I'm gonna ask this question because I've never heard of Fred Meyer, and maybe I'm the only
oh yeah,
one. Is it like a Home Depot or something? Like, I wanna
it's
make
basic.
sure everyone knows what this is, or someone can maybe pop a link in the chat or
They
something if
they
if it's a one-off place.
It's like Walmart. It's owned by Kroger. It's a grocery
Okay,
store.
okay.
You know.
is that Max? Because you went to school in Louisville,
That's right.
Kentucky.
That's right.
So Kroger, I know the grocery store. That's Midwestern also, though. I've
Yes.
seen that in Ohio. Are you in the Midwest? Where are you?
No, I live in Federal Way, Washington, which is a suburb of Seattle. It's about 40 minutes south of downtown Seattle. It's actually closer to Tacoma, Washington, but you know,
Tacoma and Seattle. Well, I conflate them, but I
it's
know
the same.
about that. Yeah. So,
Tacoma's
okay,
a
great.
little cooler in my opinion, but you know,
Well, it has become that way, hasn't it? Over time, it's the edgier place now. But
indeed.
so, okay, Pacific Northwest. That's very
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah, so
Eh,
let's hear about your DAW and your mic choice
oh yeah,
and all kinds of
absolutely.
stuff.
I love talking about this stuff. Now, I told you guys I'm a podcaster, or was a podcast. I guess you still are. You know, you can take the guy out of the podcast. But so I got started in like, I had a lot of hours in editing and audio production by the first time I ever took my first audiobook job, which I think worked a lot in my favor. I'm a computers guy. I'm pretty techie. I love software that gives me a lot of options and a lot of flexibility, and so I use Reaper. I know Reaper is very scary for a lot of narrators, because it is so full featured, but I find that to my liking. I love being able to customize it, and like, I because I did so much work with self-publishers who aren't necessarily working with like a producer and an audio engineer. I kind of also had to learn a little bit about how to set up my own audio filtering process. Reaper is really great for that. It and being that it allows you to use its free trial with all the features active is really great too. That was like the thing that got me in, and then of course I got a license because I just fell in love with it so much. And of course, spent like 500 hours in the software. I want to be able to support the guys that make it. When it comes to microphone, this is actually the first microphone I ever bought. I've bought a couple of different microphones. I just like this one the best. And this is the AKG C214. It is kind of marketed as the voiceover talent's first microphone. What I've learned is that from my voice, it's pretty good because I have a lot of bass in my voice, and this thing has an automatic built-in high pass filter, which cuts off a lot of the bass before it even hits my DAW. So that's doing some of the heavy lifting for me. I also have these things, you can't really super see them in the camera, but they are bass traps, which is a type of booth implement that I didn't even know existed before I built this thing. And basically it's just that bass sound waves are the air moving, vibrating, and bass waves are long. That's why they're low in pitch, is because the frequency is lower. They're so long, in fact, that if your booth is less than a certain width, those bass waves begin to bounce back and interfere with one another and causes some distortion that is not, you can't really pick it up in your ear when you're just listening, but in the audio signal on the computer, you can definitely hear it. It doesn't sound great. So these bass traps are pieces of equipment. They were made by, some sort of foam company, and they just sort of tamp down those really, really low range things. So first of all, some of it is getting physically eliminated by these, and then a lot of it gets eliminated by the actual process inside the microphone as well.
Max, very briefly, how many corners have you put the bass traps in? Have you put them on the ceiling as well, or the floors as well? And how do you
I've only
attach
got them in
them?
the ceiling.
Okay.
The advice that I got from I'm in a Discord server for voiceover people trying to share like tech knowledge. And the advice I got from the guy in there who's a actual audio engineer for his day job is that this is the most optimal place, top corners.
Mhm.
Bottom corners, they'll work a little bit, but this is where I got the recommendation to install them first.
Yeah, it does. I've seen that is true sometimes in some studios, depending on the position and the size of the room, it can vary a bit. And how are you attaching them? Just to the PVC tube?
So
There's a story here, I
PVC,
think.
PVC and foam are both really bad at holding on to tape. So and again, this is very DIY. I literally just have yarn because my wife knits, and I've tied loops around the 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 bass traps themselves, and then tied those loops to the ceiling bars of the PVC.
See that, and that's something that everyone should hold on to. We had an episode, I th I think it may have been episode 16, with a guy whose name is Don Oliveira. I hope I pronounced his last name correctly. He's a great e-learning voice actor, and he used zip ties. He had something
Oh yeah,
similar, and he said, yeah, the
whatever
tape and the
works.
walls and stuff, and it's you guys, like, you have to find something that works, right? And there's always a solution. Okay.
And
Uh,
so much of it is like what you can do. You know what I mean? Like I live in a really small apartment. Like this room that this booth is in. If we did not have a 2-bedroom apartment, then I would not be able to have this booth because this is the only room I can have the booth in. Um, the living room has space, but the living room is also right next to the kitchen, and kitchen has a refrigerator in it. And your ears may not hear the refrigerator all the time. The microphone is a million times more sensitive than your ears, and it can hear the refrigerator all the time. And you'll be in your booth, like trying to cut whatever specific frequency you can out and going crazy with it. So that's why I feel very lucky about my
I
location.
How do you contend with so your wife is home, perhaps on the phone or something like that? Does any get into your booth?
If I close the door to the room and I close the window to the room, then yeah, for the most part. The shape of my apartment is such that it's kind of like a horseshoe shaped hallway with the living room separated by, so I'm over here, and then the living room there's a hallway and a bathroom and a kitchen between me and the living room. So there's a decent amount of space. And I think that's probably what saves me. But the thing is, I do a lot of my recording during the day when I'm the only one who's in the apartment, and that is a big part of it. But I mean, my Cassie has her computer in this office, and if she puts her headphones on, then and for whatever she's doing on the computer, then I've actually been able to record audiobooks with enough noise, with a low enough noise floor that made you know it made it work.
That's great. So happy for you. And what about editing? Do you edit inside this booth also, or do you have
Oh
a
yeah.
different workstation?
Now, like I said, I'm a big computers guy. This computer is wired up to my router with an Ethernet connection, which is also helpful for like live directed sessions. It just means you get the best latency no matter what. That's why my video is so crisp. Um, and I have a system set up with basically like remote desktop access. And in the living room, I have my a mini PC connected to the television that I use for like replicating TV like things because I don't have cable. Um, if I wanted to, I could edit from the living room using my remote desktop. I prefer to edit in here because I like to have the headphones and I like to like really be able to listen closely. And also just I don't know, something about being in here is fun. Like I built this, it's mine, it's connected to something that I really love doing, and so being in here makes me really happy.
And so, so you're editing standing, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do a huge amount of editing. I've like like sitting down with the track and like going through because like I said, I've got that background in podcasting, which is obviously a different art, but um, it's given me so much comfort and familiarity with my DAW. Like I know this thing extremely well, and um, I have a very specific process that I go through. I do punch and roll editing, which is something somebody asked about here in the chat earlier.
Okay, good.
And so like, I'm not going through and cleaning up a whole lot of errors before I hit submit. I record. If I make a mistake, I stop, I go back and get back into it. Um, and so that saves me from having to like go back, re-listen to the whole chapter, go through with a really fine-toothed comb. And I've got a lot of automations that clean up things like the occasional mouth click or if I okay, well, I was about to say if I tap the mic, but that usually comes through a little too much to get rid of. But you know what I mean, like shuffling of the feet, clicking of the mouth, the little teeny tiny things that your DAW is actually really good at getting rid of. And it also helps that I did buy some professional sound editing software, so I have a little bit like a little bit of a plus one over what something like Audacity Free could do when it comes to noise removal, but I don't really have to use that much. And you don't really want to use too much aggressive noise removal anyway, because then that can create strange artifacts that you don't want in there at all.
Yeah, exactly. When you have live directed sessions, what are you using?
Zoom, Google Meet, whatever the
No?
client wants. I
Okay.
try to be as flexible as possible. I've got Source Connect. I haven't used it for a job yet. A lot of the times it's Zoom or Google Meet. I mean, whatever. I try to be as flexible as the client wants because everybody's got different processes these days,
Can
and
you
it pays.
ca Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, can you, play back for your clients through Zoom? That's a tough setup for a lot of people.
Let's see. Can I play back through Zoom? Yeah, I can route my. I have a virtual audio cable installed on my computer, which means it allows you to turn a sound output into an input. And Reaper is really good at allowing you to change inputs and outputs quite easily. So it's pretty easy for me to change my output from, for example, to take my like stereo output that typically goes into here and then just change that into a microphone input and then switch the audio input. It's not always, I mean, you guys know how Zoom is. It's not always immediately super easy, but it's a way to do it.
And
On the subject of this, David, this is, I don't know if you were going with Jason Birmingham's question here, but it does relate because
no,
he was
I haven't
about,
seen it.
oh, awesome. He was saying that Max, you look so good. And he's wondering if
Shucks.
I know we have sweeties in the house. He's wondering if you do a lot of work with live direction and live where they can see your face, and if you're very good setup where you are perfectly lit, does that help with your business? I think that's a great question that we don't talk about a lot here.
I mean, I've done some live directed stuff, but it hasn't been my most profitable work.
Okay.
I've done a lot of like audio drama work live directed, and I think that's probably where it comes the most in handy to have that kind of thing. You know, coaching of course as well, but like um when it comes to audiobooks, I haven't really done any live directed audiobooks. It'd be a fun adventure. I mean, I would love to try that. But yeah, I think the major thing that makes the camera work here is that I just have a ring light in the back. And that's made possible because I have a USB hub. I have about 5 million USB plugs going at one time because I've got my camera, my ring light, my audio interface, my mouse and my keyboard, which are on different USBs. Like the big advice that I have for you if you're going to build your own PVC pipe booth, make sure that you can have your computer, the actual box, on outside of the booth. Because fans are loud and your computer needs the fan, especially if you're running multiple pieces of software, unless you have like a really badass hard drive and you have great RAM. I built my PC. I'm a little bit of a gamer, so I built my PC to be like nice and chunky. If I was working off of a laptop, this setup would look very different, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you joining us from just your webcam on your
Yep.
computer, or do you
Well,
have
yeah,
a?
this is I have a Logitech webcam that is USB-C plugged right into the USB hub, which is on a long USB cable that goes out of the booth and into the computer.
Can you
Perfect.
very briefly, is it easy for you to just flip your camera or go back onto your camera so we can just see your computer setup? Because we saw a lot of your yeah, that's what we want to see. Okay.
This is my so I use a standing desk basically. It's a split level standing desk. It's got kind of half it's split in half, and the front half and the back half are able to sit at different heights. The front half is where my mouse, keyboard, and mic stand are clipped in. I'm sorry, I know my cable management is giving you guys a hernia right now. I'm sure. I'm terribly sorry about that.
Wait,
Oh,
sorry,
Um,
Max. Let me jump in. Do you have a lighting color that is brighter? Right now you're on
I
purple. Can you
probably
go to white or
should.
something that might be a bit lighter?
Is that any better? Is that like any noticeably better at all?
It's different, but I'm not sure if it's brighter. Okay.
Okay.
So keep showing us. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
So
so cool to see. It's fun.
I've just got the two halves set up at different heights. It has like a little chain lock system that allows you to do that. This was just an Amazon find. They're pretty cheap. This is actually the second one I've been through. And this one even has like, this is really fun. It has a little drink holder clip right there. But yeah, this is just I got, kind of a bottom of the barrel display because I just figured that's probably the least important piece of technology in here. Oh God. Sorry about that. And the ring light is just on a tripod that sits right behind the monitor.
Okay. That's great.
Max, that was awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Max. So great to see your setup.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Okay, Rachel.
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
All
How's
right,
life?
Rachel. Yeah, right. Yeah, really. Life is good. I mean, life is happening. We're here. It's good to be with you all. So Rachel, thank you for joining us and welcome to our home studio show and tell. And so same thing with you. Just curious about your origin stories and how you got into voiceover, and what you're kind of up to in voiceover today.
Yeah, so how I got into voiceover stuff is okay, so I talk forever, so I'm gonna give you the short version. So um I went to college. I graduated in pandemic time. I'm 24. So I graduated during the pandemic and went to college for acting. Realized that most careers in theater you have to sing and I don't sing. So I was like, ooh, that's the problem. And then when you graduate from a lot of acting schools, you have to have something to show, like this is a work that I've done in the piece. So since I couldn't be in a stage piece for the most part, I helped out the animation department and voiced in one of their animations. And then their friend had other animation friends, and so I started doing more and more college animations. And that was sort of my deep dive into voiceover, and I do character work kind of exclusively. I don't really do audiobooks, or I used to do little teeny weeny bit of e-learning. But ironically, the only e-learning I ever got hired for was my child character voice. So it just ended up being character voice anyway. So then I fully did character work, and that's kind of my jam now. I do that, I do content creation, and D&D, all that kind of jazz.
Okay,
So,
awesome. And so, oh, sorry, go ahead, David.
Rachel, what kind of things can we hear you on? Are you on cartoons, animated productions? Are you on talking toys, video games? Where-
Yeah. So I do mostly indie work. So I do a lot of college thesis animations. I'm still in that reign of it. So those are a little harder to promote because they're kind of hard to find because they're usually associated to whoever the student was that graduated. But I do a lot of work on Itch.io. Most of my projects are through Discord. So Itch.io is a indie game website where indie developers will release and produce their games. Do a lot of visual novel work through there because visual novels are a lot more of point and click and listen versus shooter stuff, but I do some of those as well. Do a lot of audio dramas through Discord. There's Voice Acting Guild, which I'm on through Discord. There is I'm sorry, we're not supposed to give names. There's lots of different sort of like indie places that kind of have their fingers and toes with each other. So there's nothing where I could be like, I've been on this Netflix anime. But indie things here and there. It's probably the best way I can put it. They're on my website, but that's about as much as I got.
That's great. Oh, so much fun. It's really great to have a specialty. I'll tell you, for anyone who's marketing, there's a plus and minus to everything in this world, right? If you can do a bit of everything, that's great. You can offer your clients, A to Z. And if you specialize in something, then your clients can really say, you know what, I know who this person is, I know when to call upon them, and that's great. That's what you have. So super, super cool. Let's see your studio.
Okay, I'm gonna switch on over to my camera one, or my phone one, so I'll be right back.
Yeah, Rachel, do you need me to spotlight the other one as well? The other you. The other you. Where is that?
Is she
Oh,
gone?
yeah, okay. No, I'm
All right,
on it.
my friends, give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Make sure I can hear you off my phone. Okay, are you there?
We are.
All right, so I will flip it over. The fun part about this booth is I'm going to do a couple of things. So I have my little ring light on, but in order for y'all to see it, I'm going to have to turn on the big light. So we'll let that go. And then the second fun part is switch camera. Switch camera. So I can show you the outside. That's the fun part. You're going to see a bunch of locks. I'm going to open it here in a second. So this is the way that I keep mine open is I grab it and I lift and I pull. And then you're going to see the outside here. So my booth, I built my booth with my dad by myself with him. We cut all the wood, we did all the screws, we glued on all the foam, all that jazz. Please ignore my bed. And we built it completely. It's about, he gave me the estimate. It's about 6.5 tall, 6.5 long, and 4 and 6 inches wide. We put a little window in. And my booth specifically needed to be portable for some stuff that I can talk about when I go back onto my nice setup. But you'll see here, basically how we make it portable is we've invented sort of a slot system where when you lift these, the wood piece comes out, and then each one of these levels is its own piece, and they slot into each other in order to make the booth. And of course, we got clamps for extra safety. And then each of these pieces sit on top of each other. And the ceiling is individual pieces, so they slide in and get hooked on this backboard so that they can't come out. This side's the same as the other one. We've got a few bolts in to hold the doors, but this whole piece right here, which I'll show you on the inside, the fun part about this booth is I'm going to do a couple of things. So I have my little ring light on, but in order for y'all to see it, I'm going to have to turn on the big light. So we'll let that go. And then the second fun part is switch camera. So I can show you the outside. That's the fun part. You're gonna see a bunch of locks. I'm gonna open it here in a second. So this is the way that I keep mine open, is I grab it and I lift and I pull. And then you're gonna see the outside here. So my booth, I built my booth with my dad, by myself with him. We cut all the wood, we did all the screws, we glued on all the foam, all that jazz. Please ignore my bed. And we built it completely. It's about, he gave me the estimate. It's about 6.5 tall, 6.5 long, and 4 and 6 inches wide. We put a little window in. And my booth specifically needed to be portable for some stuff that I can talk about when I go back onto my nice setup. But you'll see here, basically how we make it portable is we've invented sort of a slot system where when you lift these, the wood piece comes out, and then each one of these levels is its own piece, and they slot into each other in order to make the booth. And of course, we got clamps for extra safety. And then each of these pieces sit on top of each other. And the ceiling is individual pieces, so they slide in and get hooked on this backboard so that they can't come out. This side's the same as the other one. We've got a few bolts in to hold the doors, but this whole piece right here, which I'll show you on the inside, is our ventilation system. So we made a tower for the ventilation, and then we made 4-sized barn doors. So each of these 2 tops operate on their own. The 2 bottoms open and close on their own. I usually keep the sides attached because I just open the one side and then enter that way. But we've got locks on the outside because I travel with it. And I go to conventions, which I'll talk about. But then when I want to use it.
Wait. Hang on. This is too cool. Hang on a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is the coolest thing. Okay. How long does it take to break down the booth, and how long does it take to build it back together?
So that is a great question. So to break it down and to put it back together takes, if you've got enough people, it takes about 30 minutes and you know what you're doing. The hardest part of it is actually, it's a 2-person job. So the way that we built it when my dad and I were building it were specifically to make it so that I could build most of it. So the only pieces I can't lift are the floor and that big back baseboard that you saw. That requires 2 people, but every single other piece, even the doors, the walls, the ceiling, I can lift by myself. I would recommend putting it together with 2 people. It's easier, but it takes about 30 minutes to set up and break down.
That is so amazing.
Thank you.
Wow.
So
You
to break
should
that
get your
down-
dad on the show too. I mean, like,
Yeah, everybody wants to know your dad now, but also, where are you joining us from? Did we say that? Like, where in the world are you?
Yeah, so I'm in Ohio.
You're in Ohio. Okay, where in Ohio are you?
I am a little outside of Cleveland.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Good. So just help giving context that I feel like that's good to know. Okay, Ohio. Let's all go to Ohio and get that kind of basement vibe. Really. Please continue. Sorry.
No, you're totally fine. I'll tell my dad that y'all loved it. Everybody keeps telling him because he blueprinted the whole thing. So like he has the diagrams, the documents. I just helped with the wood cutting and the drilling and the nailing and things like that. And the gluing, but it's funny because everybody jokes, they're like, he needs to like get those blueprints under lock and key. But I'll let him know because he'll be super happy to hear it because we worked hard on making it available not just for the voiceover work for I do, but also because I take it to conventions with me. So we really wanted it to make it portable. I will hop back in because I want to show you guys the inside. So I'm going to close the door before I show you the inside here, just because it's a little easier to get it stationed. And in we go. So the ventilation system's over here. This is that tower from the outside. Fan goes up to 10 if you need it, but it's pretty quiet on 5. There's also one of those, like, a little hard to see, but there's one of those, what's it when you do your laundry? Dryer. That's what it is. There's a dryer tube in here that also is connected because it pulls the air, fresh air in. So that way your fan is blowing fresh air in as well. And then apologies for the bright light for a second. There is a bright light right up top that we hang in with a fish hook. That gets turned off when I do content creation work because you can't see me on the camera, although you can see me there. Hi, everyone. So I'll use the currently broken, but the little ring light. He has a better hook that usually hangs, and I'll turn the big guy off. Got a bunch of plugs, and all of these plugs, if you noticed when we were outside, there was a big green outdoor extension cord. So there's a little hole behind there, and all of these plugs go to that extension cord, and then it plugs in outside. This is a table that we built. So the table flips down, and you take the legs out in order for it to travel. And then you can see my little makeshift version of setting everything up because I also am a stander. So I do everything standing. I just can't sit. I have too much like neurodivergent energy on me to sit down. And I will say Max was fully right. If you have a desktop, use a desktop because this poor boy gets really, really hot. He does have a fan under him plugged in. Nope, it's not going to let me show you. He does have a fan under him, which is why he's raised by all of these, because there's a fan under there blowing up. But he does get hot, especially when you guys might not live stream, but when you're live for a long time, it gets very hot. And then I've got the dual monitors and my little setup. So do you want me to switch back to the other?
No, not yet.
Computer room?
No, again, this is outstanding. Tell us what system you're recording on, your DAW, your microphone. I see an interface in the back corner. Tell us what you're using.
Yes. So we got Stream Deck, that's for streaming stuff, but for voice acting recording stuff, I have a couple of different Focusrites. So I have that Focusrite, which is the solo one for traveling to conventions. I need 2 microphone in and out because I bring people in here to record. That's what I do at conventions. They get to record their own audio and their own characters. So I have to have one that comes in and one that comes out. And so it's still a Focusrite, but it's the 8i6. And then I'm getting one in a couple of weeks. That's going to be the 18i20 because I need 5 inputs outs to do my D&D show. But I love Focusrite. They all work super well. And then this little guy is one of my microphones. He is a Blue Spark studio condenser microphone. I also have their Blackout. They actually are a super amazing company. They sent me the Blackout for free because I thought that this one had broke. It didn't break, and they said I could keep both of them. So if you are ever like, oh, I want to stick with the brand because they're awesome, Blue is awesome. It works for most of the stuff I do, and it's pretty good in this booth. We get a pretty low noise floor. And then I use DAW. I use the Reaper as well. You can see the little Reaper symbol. But I'm also on Reaper. I am not a techie or an audio engineer, despite what you might look at. But I like Reaper because, well, to be honest with you, I switched to Reaper because when I very first got this microphone, this is my first ever microphone that I bought originally. I have a couple others. I also have the SM58s. But when I got that microphone and I thought that it was broken, turns out it was the DAW, and I had put it into Audacity. I had put it into Adobe Audition. I had put it into everything you can think of, and it would not record. And so my lovely person who did my demo reels said, try Reaper. They have an evaluation, and it worked in Reaper. So I stuck with Reaper, and I've just learned off of Google for everything since.
Tell us again, great. In front of your interface, or to the left of your interface,
Yes.
there's a little pad there. What is that?
So this is a Stream Deck. I use this for live streaming purposes. It's a little, basically what it is You can hook up different microphones, you can hook up lights, you can hook up different stuff if you're doing visuals on computers. And when you click them, it turns stuff on and off. So that'll turn my microphone on and off without me touching the box. And it'll do things like that. So it helps you get like really quick buttons.
Oh, that's great. Um, so much fun. Okay. Yeah. Oh, we have 10 minutes left. Okay. We want to hear, I'm sure everyone wants to hear more about these conventions you keep talking about. So carry on. This is great.
Okay, let me switch back to the computer. Unless you guys want to see anything else in here.
What is your noise floor, by the way? Have you measured it?
Yeah. So I don't usually get quite to -60. I believe that's because of how my microphone is here and my little baby laptop is right next to it, and it gets loud. So it can definitely pick up that laptop, but I usually get with the laptop going about to -56, which is still relatively good. And that's with the fan rolling. So that's with both fans rolling and the computer humming. I'm at about -56, and I could probably put a little more foam in here, but that's usually where I'm at.
And good thing though, your voice is louder, right? Your voice is
Yeah.
sharper in tone. And so that makes it easier to have a noise floor that's not quite as good because unlike someone who has a very soft voice who needs more mic gain, you don't have that problem. So this
Oh
can work
yeah,
out.
I have. You're 100% right because I have often found that my noise floor could be at like -30, and trust me, you'll hear me.
Okay, so just to quickly go through some questions here. Jason was asking, he was saying that his wife Simone, who we're all big fans of, she talked about how important it is for voice actors to have space to perform. Was space for full body acting an intentional choice when you built your booth?
Oh, definitely. It's still on my phone, so I apologize for the bad call. I apologize for the bad video quality and probably the bad audio. But full body acting was super big because I am a very physical actor, even with voice acting, especially with character work, because I mostly do horror. So there's a lot of screaming, there's a lot of crying, there's a lot of dying. And so a lot of that is like big old space. So it's very, I'm kind of moving all around. I'm getting all the jumpies out. Definitely an idea.
And Rachel, is moving this booth to a con just like so much manual labor? Like you like genuinely, like it seems exhausting to me.
So my sister is the one who goes to them with me, and she would tell you yes. um, Personally, I think it is the least amount of manual labor that you could get trying to do what I do with conventions. Because a lot of people have said, you can bring like a PVC booth setup would be easier, which is true, but I think there's no better feeling for somebody who, has always wanted to be in a cartoon, whether they're 8, whether they're 40, whether whatever, and this is not their field and they don't act, but they love Dragon Ball Z. And to walk into like a convention center and have someone go, do you want to voice a character? Like enter the booth. And they come in and it's a full setup with like microphones and everything. As far
It's
as
an
I'm concerned,
experience.
any manual labor is worth that.
Yeah, that's a real experience, no doubt. I want to go back to the microphone because you said something I think that's very interesting. A lot of people are very concerned, rightfully so, about staying on axis with their microphones, standing about the same distance from their microphone, not even swaying to left or to right or anything like that. And how much give do you have in your booth? How much can you move about in your booth and maintain a consistent signal?
Oh, anywhere I need.
Wow.
um, I partially it's because I'm loud, so like I could just get louder if I back up. Oftentimes I have to stay pretty far away from the microphone even when I'm whispering, just because I'm too loud. But the signal carries. I do have it on an arm, so it's very much, you can also like if I come all the way back here, it's still pretty close to me. Like it's not that bad. It's on an arm that moves for all sorts of purposes, but it'll reach you.
Okay.
That's so cool.
Yes. I want to ask this to both of you. I'm gonna bring Max back. Okay, so curious for both of you. There have been questions about how many hours at a time are both of you, and we'll start with Max just for order of things. How many hours at a time are you working in voiceover when you're standing there in your booth?
So, yeah, like it's totally understandable that you would ask that question because the answer for me is not long. I mean, I do like 20 minutes at a time, and then I go take a break for both my voice and my knees because uh, at 34 years old, the knees are starting to become a concern, as is the voice box. Like audiobook, you are recording for a very long time. You might have I just wrapped up a project that was 13 finished hours. I think I did the longest stretch I ever did for that was 50 minutes. And that's just because I really felt like I was on a roll. But I'm taking frequent breaks, and that definitely should be if you're going to be standing, that's definitely I think something that I you pretty much have to do.
Well, that's
Awesome.
another reason why your booth doesn't get that hot because you're
Yeah,
constantly going in and
I'm in
out.
and out.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Makes a bit
And
more sense.
Rachel, how about you? How much time are you standing there for?
So so I will always say, the phrase "do as I say, not do as I do." Um, so you're correct. Absolutely should take freaking breaks. As a not just a voice actor, but a content creator, I'm in here for at least 3 hours at a time. No shorter ever. It's just kind of the way that I function. It doesn't bother me. I bring a lot of water. I bring a couple of fruit snack packages, sometimes goldfish. And the fans do a pretty decent job of keeping me cool. And I don't mind the standing. I'm sure one day I will, but I'm constantly like moving about. I will say if it's something that's like voice laborious, like if it's a horror project where I'm supposed to be screaming for the session, then it's definitely stop and take breaks and come back, right? Don't do it all in one time, but it's usually at least 3 hours.
The stamina is
Awesome.
amazing. Wow.
Okay, last question really quickly. Max, behind you, are those curtains? Are those blankets? Soundproof blankets? What's going on back there?
Oh,
Oh, they are soundproof blankets. So I saw somebody asking about this, and there is a difference between a moving blanket and an like a sound dampening blanket. The form factor is almost identical, like visually, but I assume they're made out of different materials because the effect is different. So if you're going to build a booth like mine, you definitely want the actual audio production environment product. A moving blanket will get you some of the way there, but this will get you a little bit more. And if you're, depending on where you shop, you can buy them with grommets installed, which makes hanging them on the PVC all that much easier. Otherwise, you'd probably have to bust out a sewing machine and make some loops yourself.
Max, clarify one thing. You
Yeah.
first said that's a soundproofing blanket. Is it really,
Oh,
is that
sorry.
sound?
Yeah,
And
no,
then you
it's
change, I want to make sure it's sound absorption, not
sound
soundproofing.
absorption. Soundproofing is like
You
you
need
have to
like
like build
blankets like that.
your
Yeah.
environment. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a renter. I live in an apartment. I'm not going to be doing any soundproofing in here. My landlord wouldn't like me doing that level of modification to the property.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's great.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Oh my gosh, it's 6:59 or whatever time it is on the East Coast
Holy
and the
crap!
Midwest, all the other places. um, everyone, thank you so much. Truly, Rachel and Max, you both have been so incredible. What a wonderful, like vibrant group session this was today. Wow, it's really invigorating to be here. Thank you. Yes, everybody. So Rachel and Max and all of our participants here at Home Studio Show and Tell, they donate this time to the community to share their labors for our educational and community purposes. So I really, really appreciate it. For folks who have more and more questions, of course, here at Edge Studio, we do offer a home studio consultation. I can say that. I can say that word, consultation. There's a link in the chat for that if you're like, I just need to meet with a professional and have them look at my space because I really just want to be like Rachel and Max, and I don't have a dad powerhouse builder cry in my life.
Yeah, and
Um,
so Siobhan, let me throw in what we've been doing lately is just FaceTiming with people, and who can show us around their space, and then having them download like a decibel meter, a frequency spectrum analyzer on their phones, and they can get some measurements, and we can look at it through FaceTime or Zoom or something, and that's a really easy way to kind of help you figure out what may work best for your situation, for your space. So it's fun.
yes, the technology allows us to do all of these things and allows you to get the time that you might need. But until then, I've also dropped our class schedule in the chat for group classes if that's a bit more your speed. Again, it will not be customed to you, but there we go. So that being said, happy spring, happy May, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Wait, and download the chat.
You want to download the chat, that is, you're going to look at on a desktop. There's going to be a little ellipses underneath of the chat where you're talking to everybody, and that's going to be your first option, is to download. If you have any questions, let us know about that, but that's where you'll find it. It says save chat. It will be in like a rich text format. It will not be plain text. I mean, not rich. The opposite of rich is plain. Anyway, that's where you'll get it. This will be on YouTube. It will be posted by Josh at some point. You'll see it on our website as well as on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist for Home Studio Show and Tell. And next time we'll be here. We are doing this. We're still going every month until I'm told otherwise. Or maybe it'll never happen. So, because we'll always go. We've got June 4th. That is the first Tuesday. So we'll be there again with two other awesome people. I didn't curse. I was going to call them bad, but they're awesome people. So anyway, great, wonderful. David, last words before we let this beautiful group off into the night.
My thanks to Rachel, to Max, to all of you for joining in, to all the people who watched us down the road. If any of you have any thoughts, if you want to participate in the show, if you want to give a tour of your studio, let us know. Just keep supporting the VO community. Siobhan, thank you so much for hosting. You rock as always. Some great questions. I've only peeked every once in a while at the chat, but I've seen some terrific questions. Jason, some great comments from you. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you.
Thank you. Max, Rachel, thank you both.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Bye, guys.